needle through the magic of me having time between videos. All right. As you can see, I still have, I pretty much leave it this way all the time, twin needle setup on this machine. Now, I'm old school, so when I'm going to top stitch, I did a little bit of the top stitching already, you can see. So I did one leg and the belly band, but I'm going to just show you, you know, that everybody's loving doing the top stitching on here. So one way of doing it is to convert your sewing machine to the free arm feature if you have that, and you're just going to set it on here like so. All right, and stitch all the way around. Let's say you don't have a free arm machine. All is not lost. Okay, I now have it not in free arm mode. What you're going to do is turn the underwear inside out. Pick a place to start and end. I usually like to do that in the inner thigh just because it's not so obvious. And you want your seam allowance to turn away from the leg opening or the belly opening, waistband opening, so toward the inside of the underwear. And I always start with my strings underneath the foot. The goal is to keep them from popping out of the needle. Well, it didn't work really well earlier. The first thing they did was come unthreaded. All right, and I still have it the same way I did in the previous video. I've got my tension on 8. And you notice in the other video I had it all the way down to 3, I think, and I was still getting a zigzag. It wasn't as stretchy, so I went back to 8. I have my stitch length on 6, and my twin needle feature is turned on. Now I'm going to do my best to keep the edge, the seam or the seam line right here on the edge of my foot, so about 1/8 of an inch, which puts my needle really close to the edge, and it'll help me be consistent. So I'm going to work my way around, and I admit if I were doing it as a free arm you'd be able to see just a little bit better what I'm doing, but you can hear my spools of thread jumping around on the table. It takes quite a lot of upper thread doing this because we're not only is the upper thread on top, but it's also underneath. All right, we're almost all the way around already. Okay, a little more. When I get to the end, we will move over to the other table and talk about some of the issues I see with beginners in hopes that it'll help you. Now, notice how this is where I started, this is where I'm ending. I overstitch. You don't have to do that. If you want to end right here and pull these to the back and tie a knot, that's great. I'm not big on, I like to be fast, get done fast, but I still want it to be secure, so I overstitch. Generally, I try to get them probably more closely placed so that they don't show like that. I'll try to get them exactly on top of each other, but this one's going to Uganda. I'm pretty sure the ladies are not going to complain. All right, so here you are. Pair of Scrundlewear, leg bands, belly band, top stitching. We've been through lots of conversation regarding how to get them to the stage. They're fantastic. And I did have to piece my leg bands because I was upcycling a garment, but it really, for what I'm doing, I think they're great. Okay, so let's go over here to this table and let me show you. Through the magic of me having time, I don't have any issues with this pair, but let's take a look at this. This is in the girl's defense. She had never done any sewing whatsoever, and I put her on a serger first thing. She was wanting to help us make underwear for Uganda, which was really sweet. So let me talk about when you are putting your bands on and we are stretching and pulling. Remember how I said the underwear may want to slide away from your seam? When that happens, you get this. You can't see that it's happening because we're stitching along this way. This is what we see. What's happening underneath? This. things are pulling away from where we're sewing this. Okay, now it's fixable. You can put it on your, I recommend turn it this way so you can see where the problem is and run it back through your serger. You have to serge on and then serge off. You're going to need to tie a knot and tie a knot. Or you can go over to your sewing machine that's set up for a straight stitch and just back stitch, stitch across this and back stitch and then trim your threads much quicker. All right, the other issues that can happen, see if I can find some of them. See how this seam is doing this business? That is because, and you can see there's another issue here, not enough of the belly band was still available when she got to this part of the pants. So she had to really stretch that belly band much more than she should have. In this area, there was extra. It's essentially not even stretched. So, you know, as far as comfort, these probably wouldn't be the most comfortable. I'm going to want to sag in the front a little bit and possibly pull up in the back. This, well, part of it is being new, but another part would be taking pins out before you pass by, which gets to what I had mentioned the other day. Just leave them in and don't try to make this much progress at a time. Instead, grab this and remember how I was just going this much at a time? Small bits. When you go small bits, you're making sure that fabric isn't transferring into the next section and then all of a sudden you have way too much fabric for the little bit of band that's left. So just kind of common things to watch out for. If they happen to you, listen, it's not life-threatening. Just do like I said. Here's a hole. Turn it over. Come in here. Stitch that down with your sewing machine and you're good to go. Especially because if you're going to come back and do the top stitching, bending this towards the inside of the underwear, and then on the outside you're top stitching, whether you're using a twin needle or zigzag, it's all secure. So don't be discouraged. Nobody's going to be looking at your underwear, right? Tell me they won't be looking at your underwear. All right. So I think this is still recoverable. This pair will be great. I'm going to hang on to it though because I think it makes a great demonstration tool. This also happens. Notice how we didn't stitch the liner down, which caused us all kinds of trouble when we came around. So I hope that the tips and tricks I mentioned are helpful to you and they made sense. If you have questions, post them in the comments section below. And